Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 154, Mini Truckin Magazine, October 2004. This is Ryan Gibson's 98 Frontier. Of course, repping severed ties. Got the wood graphics. The 12th severed ties truck to be featured on the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine. This was Mike Alexander's first cover that he's credited with, and it's talked about in this issue. I assume the truck was shot at Showfest 2004. We'll talk about how we came to that conclusion. Stick with me to the end, and I'll show you why this is one of my favorite issues. Kind of ties into something in this issue. Now, having posted this truck, some of the photos I took from it, the 2004, I do believe a few years ago when I posted the photos on Severed Ties that I think Ryan still owns it. I believe he moved. At this time, he lived in Texas. I want to say he lives like over towards the East Coast, maybe West Virginia. But I do know this truck still was around. You have the insert photo, upper right corner, which was the lifestyle, our lifestyle. Actually, Showfest, the Mississippi Mayhem kind of ties into the nightlife there. So with that being said, let's jump in. Of course, this is Budnick wheels on the cover for the cover truck. If you like what we're doing here, leave a comment, even if just an emoji, thumbs up. And of course, do a thumbs up on the video. That helps the algorithms. That's my boy. So the scrub line here, Lance talks about Mike Alexander coming on board. And of course, we can already see the impact that he's making with some of the features and write-ups and some of the content that's being provided. You got paper cuts on the left. You have Bruce Rivera, rest in peace. His Isuzu that Joe shot, of course, appears right here on the subscribe page. Jamey Jordan, you may know this truck, Peep Show. Of course, it was spun as Mike Alexander and Lance shot it. This is a 94 XtraCab Toyota. Jamey from Meridian, Mississippi. Of course, repping NC. This truck is still around. I got a chance to see it, of course, at Showfest in 04. A couple of the cool things about it. You've got the moon eyes rear view mirror. You can see the for sale sign. Of course, NC logos on it. The billet mirrors, which you'll see there as well. Now, I saw this truck at also Lone Star Throwdown, one of my favorite shows, 2014, I want to say. And it was in No Regrets at the time. Of course, now this is the same truck, if you did not know, that Waka from Southern Tradition that he owns. Truck is still amazing. What a legacy. One of the cool things, I like one of the little mirror deals there. The tanks mounted kind of sideways was a little different with the hard lines coming out. Super clean interior. These trucks that stand the test of time are really a testament to the hands that built these trucks, like Jamey Jordan and I'm sure friends and the people credited in the feature. But very timeless with the colors. I think the red contrasting with the leather color and whatnot. Super clean engine bay. Really nice truck. No wonder that it's still around. Biggity boom, Showfest 04. I would assume that Mike shot Ryan's Nissan Frontier. Now, I do believe it's one of the first Frontiers that was done. We, of course, know Rob Rodell had his. There weren't many from that time period. Of course, you guys could maybe chime in. There probably was another one or two, but certainly to be done, it had to have been one of the first. I remember looking at it kind of just in awe because the graphics, but also looking inside the bed there, which we'll, of course, see more of, parked right there in Severed Row. This truck was one of the first, around the 10th, in the single digits, I believe, trucks to grace the cover of Street Trucks. The owner, if I recall correctly, wrote the feature. It's an underrated truck that really deserves more credit. That truck had a lot of detail, and it had a really detailed write-up in the cover shoot for Street Trucks. Here we see Jamey's Yoda. This was not the Yoda, but super clean rear setup. And then, speaking of Yodas, there's another one. Tons of Yodas. But you see the nation's finest flock to Greenville. We had started going in 2000. I really hate that I missed the first couple of years. Started in, 96? So, like kind of a fifth annual by the time we started going. But quickly became one of the biggest and baddest around. And if you did not know, as I always want to give credit, assorted miniatures. They a lot of the money was donated to the burn victims of that area and whatnot. This Ranger was super nice as well. I think it was PMA maybe, but that thing was super awesome. You see Patrick Reed's truck as well. Here is the famous Mazda that we continue to see. I posted video of it. Here we could see this was Chris Hansen's at the time. Justin ends up acquiring this truck. Super clean. Love that Mazda. Rest in peace. You got Ernie Macias. We'll see that photo again here. Silver Star, that was the year we did stay. They had access to the big building, and we would go in there. Chris and I would stay. He would usually convince me to stay for awards. And, of course, we had something to wait for that period or that year because they were giving away the Blazer. So it was interesting. We could see some of the Hills Hot Rod crew here. The show always brought out tons and tons of high-end stuff, just really high-caliber builds. And that's why in 2012, I wanted to debut my truck there, and we did. Certainly mission accomplished, and forever grateful for Assorted Miniatures for having that show. They, of course, brought it back, and, you know, it's since kind of sunsetted, if you will, but I love those guys. This is Robert Allen Jackson. You may know him as Farva. Lance shot this. Farva would go on to build the Blazerado, of course, and be the owner of it, but certainly he had a couple of other things notched under his belt. This was one of them, a super clean S10 with the Sonoma front clip, Memphis Audio. You can see the severed logo there, and just a really awesome truck. I remember seeing this thing in person, and certainly Super Trooper, kind of a cool tie-in there. Love the feature as well, kind of some of the art department, you know, stepping up as we've continued to see, and as resources and you know, more employees and just, you know, people that could help, you know, they really kind of contributed and made the magazine even better than it was in some ways. Greenville Nights, all hours after party. Of course, Mike Alexander shot this. We had just such a good time. The stories, I could do multiple episodes, but I mean, this year was crazy. It had rained, and there were some of the petitioners from, I won't say what club, were kind of doing moat races. This is the first time I remember meeting Alex Hu, rest in peace, and just joking with him. Of course, he had notched the West Coast Chopper shows and some of the Monster Garage stuff under his belt, you know, some of the things he worked with, but it was awesome. We had such a good time joking around with different people. Here's Kool-Aid throwing up the diamond. Lance there. I can't tell who that is throwing up the diamond with him. And then there is the famous truck that I believe was Chris Hansen's, as I mentioned, that Eli now owns. Eli, of course, built that thing twice, and that may have been Eli's at that point. Certainly awesome, but you could see just the cruising aspect. I mean, this is a little bit of insight. Here's the Pebble Pushers, Isuzu. You know, we were out there having a good time. Severed. We did all kinds of crazy stuff. Here's Kool-Aid cruising from the west. That was the same truck I rode in when I went to SEMA 03. That was the Chariot all week. There was the camp right there. We were posted out there, and I posted video from some of the years, and I would just tell you, there's Ronnie from Flat Out. Keep it posted to our social media. I got a lot more coming. OLP, whether it be Facebook or Instagram. The reels are on the rise. I drag, therefore I am. This is Mike Alexander dragging through. I believe this was the first time we're seeing his column, editorial, whatever you want to call it. He tags Blood Drag there to 2904. And of course, that's when I remember talking with Mike. He took a cool photo of me, and I still have that photo. But I think I met Mike originally at the Severed 10th anniversary, which was at Rezo. He had his S10 there. Here's Got Wood, and if you talk about the layouts, super clean. Mike shot it, as we can see here, and Mike gets the credit for this cover. He ends up shooting a lot of covers, which we'll talk a lot about. But again, Ryan Gibson, 98 Frontier. He was from Mongolia, Texas at the time. and just an awesome layout. Again, this stuff is a lot easier to do now with the tools and resources we have, but just look at how awesome this truck came together. I always love seeing these trucks. You know, mini truckers were often taking our stuff to shows and trying to get it finished, but you know, to go to these shows and see these completely finished trucks, something that was even newer, you know, 98, I mean, it wasn't brand new, don't get me wrong, but a newer body style certainly was awesome to see, like done. Looking at the inside of the bed, the nitrogen tanks, those were super popular, especially with the Texas guys at the time. Extensive was the main kind of supplier of those bottle brackets. The nice speaker pods, super clean engine bay. You know, one of the reasons why I also do these flip throughs and the podcast really is that, you know, there's a lot of trucks out there that sometimes people may or may not forget about, but certainly, like I always say, a lot of the OGs and people that have been in this lifestyle, sport, whatever you want to call it, have you know, been there, done that. Pretty much everything we're doing now has already been done to a certain extent. Certainly not everything, you know. Not everything was a one-off chassis back then, but you get what I'm saying. There you go. That was kind of something different. Optiflow, and that was blown glass. That always kind of blew my mind. Ironic that Mike Alexander and John O'Neill shot this, and of course Mike ends up starting the company called Flow years later. Just thought of that. But shout out to Mike. I saw Mike at Mini Nats the last couple years, and I know he's over at, you know, doing the thing in the industry, and he certainly was kind of getting his beginning going here, if you will. Sal Napoli from OG from LV, so OG Original Gangsta, or also known as just Original in general. Awesome title, of course, from Vegas. We've had Sal on. He had 4 covers with one truck back in the day between Mini Truckin and Truckin. And I saw this truck a few years back at the Mini Truck Hall of Fame, which was pretty cool. And Sal's a great guy. Because of, I think, Ruben, we were able to get him on. Something you don't always see is a Cab Plus. There were a few of them, but not many Cab Plus topless. And, of course, Vegas, as I said, chaotic. You can see Ryan's logo there. And this truck still looks amazing. I'd love to have a topless deal on my Cab Plus. Certainly a little bit heavier, you would imagine, right? The roof. Spring Fling 04. Here's the truck we recently saw, the cover truck. This was Wicked Customs, Josh's, I think, at that time, that Ranger. Again, I sometimes get the Rangers mixed up. Some of you guys can kind of chime in, but yeah, that looks like it. I know some people loved it without the graphics. I remember posting it years ago, and other people said, man, you know, I love the graphics. I always liked the graphics on it. I thought they were super detailed. I loved that style, but I can understand people loving it in the single color as well. If you like what we're doing here, search OLP via any podcast app or go to our website. The link's in the bio, and you can find out ways to listen. It's free. Las Vegas Underground. When I see this truck, it makes me think of Matt Yarborough's. You know, Matt does a lot of those short videos on social media these days, and it's pretty cool to see him kind of getting in front of the camera. You know, a lot of people think it's easy to do, or wow, why did this guy do this? And I would have done that. But certainly when you start your own channel or your own content, you know, it's easier said than done. But every time I see that S10, I always think of Matt's. And of course, Matt's got a cool old school dime. Love this truck. Kind of reminds me of Joe Millionaire, but I don't think it is, right? It's definitely not. But love the topper, love the wheels, love that era. And this was a cool show. Again, Las Vegas Underground. I don't know exactly where it was at, but if you've ever been to Vegas, especially the old Fremont Street, which I believe is technically where this was at, pretty cool, great place to have a show. Just kind of flipping back, making sure I'm not missing anything here. Here is Brad Hopkins, 80 Toyota Long Bed, Orville, California. If you know the O word, Orville, you know there's one shop that's synonymous with that. At this time, of course, there were two, but for the most part, Grant Customs. This thing is sick. I tend to get some of these trucks mixed up because Grant was flipping the script like no tomorrow with Twisted Metal and you know, those builds that he had under his belt. But certainly some of the guys that were either friends or employees of the shop, you know, including this truck, super sick. Here we see a group photo. There's body drop. You can see the diamonds being thrown up. So severed photo there. This was something that, although, you know, a lot of guys are doing things with tanks now, certainly take a look at that. That, you know, guys were doing stuff like that technically back in the day as well. You see a lot of that kind of stuff now with wraps and airbrush and whatnot. A lot of ads at this point, which is a good thing for the magazine. Pretty cool FBI ad, and rest in peace, Ernie, upper left, but check it out. The first time I appear in the magazine, ODBZ. Now, don't get it twisted. We're standing there. Kool-Aid comes up behind me, throws the diamond up. This was kind of cool. He yells to Lance. I still remember he goes, Lance, graffiti, or something to that effect. But he basically says graffiti. And Lance didn't forget. I had my Spring Break 99 MTV cap on, Oktoberfest shirt, wearing the medallion that I got from Severed, Texas. That became, it's actually on my truck. It's the same one. And there's Dog, Big Ernie. You see Ernie's truck again there. One of the Severed members. I forget his name. And this was Severed. I think it was Ronnie, if I remember correctly. He still builds cool stuff. I know he was building the Sequoias and stuff like that. But pretty cool that Lance put that photo in there, and Kool-Aid was always looking out. Really appreciate him for doing that. But really, to sum it up, again, thanks for watching these all the way through. Ryan Gibson, 98 Frontier, if he happens to see this, dude, love this truck. I hope that it's still around. Shout out to Mike Alexander for his first credited cover. Again, there's many more to come. Next, we got one of the baddest built trucks of all the time that was shot by Wes Allison. Much more to come. Keep it locked. And if you're a recent subscriber, thank you. Go back. All of the playlists are updated. All of the features from every single one of these issues is literally detailed out in the description of all of these episodes, issues, videos, whatever you want to call it. Stay on the rise, everyone. No model to zoom in on here. We out here.